How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is Xbox Ready Ray's channel. I'm filling in for him because he's on vacation, and our mutual friend, I think, well, definitely my friend, Tom from Moore's Law is Dead, just put out a huge video that covered the future of Xbox, the Magnus chip, and everything you need to know about it. If you want the super technical deep dive into all of that, please check out Tom's channel because it's great, and Tom is a great guy. I've been on his podcast to talk about the Steam Deck 2 and where we'd like to see that go in the future. It was a ton of fun, but I'm going to give you the surface level regular gamer take on all of this, and a lot of it is extremely positive for Xbox fans and PC gamers alike. So let's get into it. The first thing to cover is this rumor that exploded around a week ago, which was that Xbox is leaving the hardware industry altogether and going third party. Some YouTubers are saying that that is still the case, but Tom has great sources within Microsoft, and he has confirmed that they are still day to day, like right now as I am recording this video, working on the Magnus chip and the next generation Xbox, and that they have no plans to exit the hardware industry at all, which would be crazy because they are making a lot of advancements with the Windows ecosystem to make it feel more like an Xbox. The Xbox full screen experience is nothing to write off because you can try it out right now on the ROG Ally X if you have the old one that doesn't have the Xbox branding, and as someone who's tried it out, I am very impressed with it. It is very good for PC gaming as a whole, to the point where I want it on my Razer Blade with a 4090 in it. The fact that you can control the entire operating system with a controller is amazing. You can use the keyboard, you can switch between apps, it's all fast, it's all fluid. On the ROG Ally X handheld that I have, it is very good. So to see them doing that and then mix that with these rumors that they're leaving hardware, it just doesn't make sense, because if you look at the Surface line, you look at even the Series X and S, no one has ever said, and if they did, they're crazy, that Xbox has not been able to make high quality, good performing hardware, because that's exactly what they've been doing. And if they did leave the industry, that would be bad across the board for competition's sake, but also just having a high quality Xbox branded option at your disposal, that would be a huge absence that I wouldn't want to see. So like, yeah, I don't think that's happening. And Tom backing that up, saying he's talked to people who are directly working on Xbox hardware, I think that's as close to gospel being Phil Spencer coming out on video and saying, yep, this is the next generation of Xbox. I feel totally confident that they still are working on hardware and that there is no risk that they're leaving. Of course, things change day by day, it seems like lately, which sucks, but as of right now, I'm very confident Xbox is staying in the hardware game. And when you're going to be able to play this next generation Xbox, it doesn't seem like you're going to have to wait too long. A lot of the rumors were saying 2026 for the PS6 and Xbox next generation console. I don't know what it's going to be called, but it looks like 2027 is the date. The people who are working on it within Xbox internally are telling Tom over and over again that they are locked in on 2027 as the release date. So it's only 2 years away, because they're not going to release it in the middle of the year or the beginning. They're going to release it at the end, like they always have, right around November, when you can capitalize on the Christmas shopping season. So 2 years from now, you'll be playing on the next generation of Xbox. And as far as the chip itself goes, this Magnus chip, this thing sounds awesome. We'll talk about how they're kind of changing things up in terms of the overall GPU pipeline on this thing in a second, because it's very similar to what Sony is doing with the PlayStation 6. But in terms of raw power, this thing is going to be more powerful than the PlayStation 6 by 20 to 30%. What that means is if you're playing at 4K 120 FPS with FSR 4 upscaling on the PS6, you'll get 144 FPS out of the Xbox console. That doesn't mean a lot for playing on a TV, because TVs go, 60 FPS or 120 FPS. So like having that extra headroom would help you get a more consistent 120 FPS with the console V syncing at 120. But if you're playing on a desk, using a keyboard, using a mouse, using a monitor, most monitors are 1440p 144 FPS. So you'll be able to take advantage of that with this next generation console, which is excellent. Like, you want that extra headroom on a TV for keeping a more consistent frame rate, which is what everyone should want at the end of the day. I don't think you're going to see the super high frame rates you can get out of high spec PCs like 244 or whatever, but maybe you could play games at lower resolutions like 720p, like Counter-Strike or whatever, and get the frame rate that high. It just, like, the point is, it seems like they are going for a much more powerful system than what you're going to see in the PS6, and that's great. And the reason that's great is because this thing, for all intents and purposes, is going to be a small form factor PC that's all put together, all ready to go right out of the box. I'd assume it'll run the Xbox full screen experience experience so you can get that controller navigation. But I will say they've done a good job with regular Windows in terms of making it navigatable by a controller, whether you're on the ROG Ally X, the Legion Go, or any of the other handhelds out there that run Windows instead of SteamOS. They have made major strides in making that a high quality operating system on its own, and it only gets better with the preview version of Xbox full screen experience that I've been able to use. So I'm fine with that. The biggest problem, of course, is games. It's all games, right? Like Play Anywhere is not revolutionary because you guys, I got to get some PlayStation shout outs in here somewhere. Everyone gives Play Anywhere all this credit for transferring your saves between devices, but Steam's had that forever between different PCs. And in the PS3, PS4, Vita era, they introduced cross save and cross buy. They were terribly named, but if you bought a game like PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale on PS3, you'd get a Vita code completely for free in the box. And there were a lot of games that did that, and it's not with PC, it's between console. The biggest problem that they have to address sooner rather than later is game compatibility, because if they are abandoning the Xbox operating system, all of these games from the 360 era, all of these games from the original Xbox era, all these games from the Xbox One era that don't have PC ports, those go away. You're going to need to have a Series X in your closet for whenever you want to play those retro games. Now, what they could do is take a page out of Valve's book, like they did with the full screen experience itself, and invent a translation layer like Proton, where you can put in an Xbox game, like an Xbox app, and then the PC will make a mini Xbox install for each and every game that makes it run as an emulator. I hope they do that. That's what they should do, because telling people, yeah, you can stick with Xbox and play any Play Anywhere game where you can play it on Xbox or PC and your saves transfer, that's great. It's not good enough. People have spent a ton of money on Xbox games over the years, and you had a digital Xbox 360 storefront up and running for the vast majority of that time, and you told people to build up their digital library of Xbox 360 games, Xbox One games, and now Xbox Series X games. So like abandoning that is just not going to work. Like you're building a whole new fan base at that point by transitioning people over to PC, and that's just not good enough. The good thing is every first party Xbox game from now into infinity is a Play Anywhere game. So like if you buy it once, you get it on PC as well through the Xbox app. Your saves transfer back and forth. All of your progress transfers, your settings are saved between devices. I like that. I think it's good that they enacted that. It was basically a necessity, but it seems to work pretty well because I play Forza Horizon 4 and 5 on my Xbox Series X and then play them on my PCs with the Windows app. I've had zero issues with achievement syncing. I've had zero issues with save syncing. Everything works as it should, and more games are doing that, like The Outer Worlds 2, Doom: The Dark Ages, Indiana Jones. Basically every new Xbox game does it, so they're setting themselves up for the future correctly. They just need to address the past as well, and then they're setting themselves up for a win. As far as pricing goes, there's no way around it. They are looking to make a more expensive console. Like, yes, you are going to get better performance than the PS6, but you're also going to be paying more for it. The benchmark I've seen, or like the guess, is around $800, but you are getting a desktop PC that is going to be able to use Steam, so you'll be able to play your Game Pass games, pay that monthly subscription of $30 a month to get access to everything day one. Or if you spend some time waiting for a Steam Christmas sale, a Steam Autumn sale, a Steam Summer sale, you can rebuild your library of PC games, and then if you buy a Steam Deck, you buy an ROG Ally, you buy any device that can access Steam, you can feel pretty safe that those games will stick with you forever. And of course, you'll have access to the Epic Game Store, which gives away free games like every week, it seems like, and they're good games too. So you will have the opportunity to rebuild your library and use this thing as a PC. So the value proposition is a little bit better than what you'll get out of a PlayStation 6, which is going to be locked down to Sony's storefront. That's going to be great for PlayStation users because they've built up a massive digital library of games that they'll still be able to access. But there is a better value proposition coming out of the Xbox camp by saying, hey, you'll also be able to play Battle.net, Steam, Epic Game Store, GOG games. You can do whatever you want on this thing, but we'd of course prefer you subscribe to Game Pass. Earlier in the video, I talked about how they are going to be very similar to each other, the PS6 and this new console, in one way, and that way is through neural pipelines. I don't really understand how this works, but apparently there's compute units on the APUs that these consoles use, and they're changing the way they work. They'll be able to have specific cores that only handle upscaling. They'll have specific cores for ray tracing. They'll have specific ones for path tracing, and then the GPU GPU will be mostly reserved for rasterizing, which is like the core way games used to work. You use the APU to play the game, it renders the image, you see the image on your TV, it's all cut and dry. The GPU will be able to do that. You'll be able to do that while the neural engine handles upscaling, ray tracing, all the crazy new effects that are going to make games look better. The real win with the Xbox chip is that it's going to have a dedicated neural unit. So one whole section of the chip will be dedicated to ray tracing, upscaling, and path tracing, so it won't take away from the overall performance of the game. The PS6, it looks like, is doing something different where, you know, you're still going to have the GPU, but the GPU in tandem with rasterization is going to be doing the ray tracing and everything. It's really hard to predict which one's going to be better at it without actually seeing it, but it does need to be pointed out that Xbox is dedicating an entire portion of their chip just for that, while Sony is splitting the load across the entire chip as a whole. So I really see this going two ways for Microsoft, and it all hinges on backwards compatibility because they are fighting a two-front battle. You know, if they're fighting the PC side, they're fighting Valve and SteamOS, and I can tell you firsthand, SteamOS, as good as Xbox full screen experience is, it's better than I anticipated it was going to be. SteamOS is still leagues ahead in terms of being a PC operating system that can run on your TV and do it well. They've got to fight that battle and figure that out, and that's going to take a little bit of time because they need to get this thing out there and start collecting feedback and like really hammer down features that people who use this thing really want. The other front they're fighting is with Sony on the console that's going to be more traditional and have a huge backwards compatible library. So really the futures are they bomb because they don't figure out how to get backwards compatibility up and running, or they completely succeed because they figured out how to get backwards compatibility with the Series X generation up and running. I hope they have a huge investment in a team getting that ready to go for the launch of this thing. Thankfully, they have 2 years to figure it out, and they have a head start because they can look at what Valve did with Proton and Windows and figure that out to make, you know, Xbox games work the same way Windows games work on Linux. So it just really depends on if they do that. And I think the success of the Xbox full screen experience is another huge factor. Like launching it only on the Xbox ROG Ally X is kind of a dumb move if you ask me, because you can already install it on anything you want. Like it's an artificial block that I'm sure Asus argued for to get more people to buy this thing instead of going to the store and buying the old Ally X open box used or on a deep discount, because I'm sure they're going to discontinue it as soon as the new one's out. And you know, it really doesn't help them that from early benchmarks of the Legion Go 2, the Z2 Extreme does not seem like it's all that much better than the Z1 Extreme. Like you'll get 2 to 3 FPS differences in games. It's not going to suddenly make games go from 30 FPS to 60. It's just going to be a more consistent 30, 40, or 60 FPS out of games. So like Asus is kind of hurting them in the long run, at least I think. But you know, I'm not an Xbox fanboy. I like Windows, I like SteamOS, I like Xbox Series X. I just like everything pretty much across the board, with like 1 point more in Sony and like 5 points more in Valve. That's just where I'm at. Personally, if you've never seen me before, I run a PlayStation channel and a Steam Deck channel. So I did my best here, but Xbox made it easy. I feel like these rumors are true. They're setting themselves up on the hardware side to be really strong in the next generation. It's just the games at the end of the day. The biggest problem Xbox has always had, it's bad timing with games or not having games to offer to people at all. But you know, they own Activision, they own Bethesda. Let's see some results. And they have done a great job with results this year. Like they have done a much better job than Sony, if you ask me. Like I like Death Stranding, Ghost of Yotei seems amazing, but Sony's really whiffed it in terms of first party games coming out at all this generation, and Xbox simply has not. They've done an incredible job this year with some of the best games in general. Like Indiana Jones is great, Doom the Dark Ages is great, Avowed is not great. I will not hear that Avowed is great or any excuses for that game because it sucks. Outer Worlds 2 looks solid. Forza Horizon 5 was one of my all-time favorite games, and I'm excited for Forza Horizon 6. Fable looks cool. There's tons of Xbox stuff coming out, and Sony finally has Wolverine, but they need to announce way more games to even be at Xbox's level. So it really comes down to backwards compatibility and whether or not people are willing to get close to $1,000 for this stuff, because you're rapidly approaching the point where you could build a PC. And with the Xbox full screen experience out now, you could get the experience that you'll get out of the Magnus right now if you just pay more money for it and build a PC. And that's something Xbox is going to have to figure out in terms of messaging. But I feel pretty decent about where they're going. I'd give it like a 7 out of 10. Potential to be a 5 out of 10, potential to be a 9 out of 10. It's all up to Xbox now. So yeah, that brings me to the end of my video where I'm filling in for Ray here. That was fun. Thanks for having me, guys. And Ray, if you want to see some great horror breakdowns, check out my channel Real Ones. If you're interested in PC handhelds, check out my channel Deck Ready. And if you're interested in PlayStation, check out PS Ready. I doubt you are, but I figured I'd plug it anyway. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and shape on.